Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm Teresa Velardi, your host for this hour-long conversation. We're going to talk about the fourfold formula for all things wellness. These beautiful ladies that you see are all authors in that book, and I can't wait to get the conversation started. But first, I want to say welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference, and we are live call-in video shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network, and you can hear us in mobile, online, in cars, on YouTube, and by asking Alexa. I have to go slowly, so no Alexa starts playing Dream Vision 7 radio network in the background. And you can go for, I see our full schedule on dreamvision7radio.com. This show replays every Tuesday from at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time. And for those of you who may know me, I like to start my show with a prayer. So we start with the serenity prayer. Nice. God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is by God's grace that we are all fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose. And all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And we gratefully say, amen. Amen. I also want to send thoughts and prayers to all the people who suffered such great loss in Florida from Hurricane Ian. Our beloved Peggy is in the middle of that whole thing. And we send good thoughts, prayers, and love to her and all of those who were affected by Ian. We never know what's going to happen in this world, but we're going to talk about how we can rise above any of the challenges that we have faced in our lives. And many of you, the four of you have written about overcoming in this book, The Fourfold Formula for All Things Wellness, because wellness is not just about going to the gym, everybody. There's a lot more to it. The wheel, the ATW wheel, All Things Wellness wheel, can teach you all about that. And there's information about that in this great book. Get your copy on Amazon. Let me introduce my guests. We're going to start with Dr. Pat Baccili. She's a leader in the field of human potential and the creator of the Transformation Network on New Mainstream in Media. She is an international award-winning talk show radio host, TV commentator, keynote speaker, certified career and belief coach. Dr. Pat has received numerous awards for her empowering message on radio and her contribution to green awareness and empowering women across the globe. Welcome, Dr. Pat.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Jessica Henderson is an executive producer at the Transformation Network. Dr. Pat is a big fan. Did you see a little cheerleading going on over there? I did. And the Dr. Pat Show. She has been a lifelong creative and musician. When Jessica's not facilitating transformation through the network hosts, co-hosts, and sponsors, you'll find her exploring the mountains, paddling on Lake Washington, or playing music. What's your favorite instrument to play?
Ooh, tough one, but probably the fiddle, because that's what I've played the longest.
Awesome. Awesome. Gina Lobito is a transformational coach, energy intuitive, advanced teacher, and student of self-mastery. She created soul-inspired reflections to guide others to master their personal power through her in-body, in-power, in-soul approach to life. And this approach assists in embodying the multidimensionality of soul and transcending the human experience, holding all things as sacred. Like that, Gina, like that. Martine Emmons is a certified, Dr. Pat, yay, you're the cheerleader for everybody. I love it.
Take a look at these powerful women. Come on.
Yeah, these are awesome women, exactly. Martine Emmons is a certified transformation life coach serving women who have overcome trauma and adversity. She's the host of Transformation with Martine, Conquering Everything, Compromise Nothing. Love it. Martine enjoys helping therapists and coaches run their business as an executive virtual assistant, and she loves traveling to ocean destinations and lives in Michigan with her husband. It's getting cold there. I know
Yes.
it's cold in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies, we have some great stories, one from each of you, of course, in this book. And I'm going to start with Jessica. I'm going to start with your story. I read each one of these, of course, in the process of getting it published, but also I read through each one of them today and went through with a magic marker. So you know, I've got stuff to talk about. So Jessica, let's start with you.
Awesome.
The title of your story is The Law of Unattraction. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the Law of Attraction, have heard of Abraham Hicks, and there are a few gurus, if you will, that are well-versed in the Law of Attraction. But you called it the Law of Unattraction. Why did you do that?
Because my experience in getting introduced to the Law of Attraction was the complete negative side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And which, you know, mirrored my state of mind at that time.
Yes.
And for me, that's what I took from it at first until I really got to know it and work with it.
Right. And so you say, how we approach our trials and tribulations with these powerful teachings, messages, and laws of the universe. The secret. We all have different strategies and approaches. Learning how to spin them or apply them to suit us individually is where the magic takes place. This is a beautiful part about this thing we call life. Does it matter what you believe, as long as you believe in something for greater good, something positive? Today, I love the fact that I create and bring things into my life. I welcome all experience. As a wise woman recently told me, it isn't good, it isn't bad, it just is. Let's talk about that a little bit and how you use that philosophy in your life on a day-to-day basis.
I will. And I'll tell you, the wise woman is on this show today. Dr. Pat is the one that said that to me.
Awesome.
But to me, and it started with that negative side of this is happening to me and I'm the reason. Mm-hmm. Taking responsibility and understanding that at some level, I was the reason that these negative experiences were happening to me. And I went the full wrong side of that mentality, right? I mean, I was total victim mode around everything and really didn't understand how to get out of it. And the shift happened when you realize that saying, everything happens. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. And honestly, it doesn't matter what belief system you come from. There's a form of law of attraction that's working all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have conscious awareness of it. But when you do, that's when you're empowered. And that's when you can take control and you have power over your choices, power over your reactions, and you can have it work for you rather than against you.
Yeah, so there are so many ways that this has been said. What you think about, you bring him out. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. It's in many of the books of life, if you will. The Bible, the I Ching, the Bhagavad Gita. It's in all of them, and lots of teachers of this philosophy talk about how whatever we think about, becomes our reality. In one way or another. And as you say, what was the quote that she said? Tell me
it's
again.
Not good. It's not bad. It just is.
It just is.
And for an overthinker like myself, I have to tell you that is huge, because I'm the overthinker to the point of I'm overthinking all my thoughts now, because what did I think, the right thing or the wrong thing? Did I have the right emphasis on that or the wrong emphasis? Right. And I mean, you just spin. Right.
Right.
And if you can just go back to that, you take a breath and you
Mhm.
realize, whoa,
Mhm.
it really isn't that complicated.
Right. And unless you do that, you're in your head saying, oh my goodness, how is this going to show up in my life? Who is this going to bring into my life? How am I going to be tested, if you will, in this area, and be able to break free from that? And it's all if you just stop and take a breath and realize it just is for the moment. Good
Mhm.
stuff, Jessica.
Exactly. Thank you.
Good stuff. Let's go to Gina. Gina, I love your story.
Yeah. Oh, thank
I love
you.
all these stories. I love all these stories. They're all so good. And this is called Waiting for Half and Half. And I'm just going to say that sometimes when we're in the simplest situations and we turn around and look, and there's something that we have to face, either from our past, our present, or something that's going to take us to another place in our future. Give a little background on this story, if you will.
Yeah, a little background. This was a relationship I had 5 years, began as a friendship, and we both on our own journey of awakening and self-mastery. And but our relationship evolved and we became partners for the last like 2.5 years of our relationship. And it ended up getting more and more tumultuous, as sometimes these relationships do, but they also serve a higher purpose at times. But ultimately, I realized I was in an abusive relationship, emotionally, mentally, physically. Like I would go to bed at night, like afraid, and that is not okay. And but for me, it was also this place of where my mantra became, just keep my heart open, just keep my heart open. Because I was also recognizing this person wasn't of sound mind during this time. And when you're not fully in your body, this is not absolving the abuse by any means. But it allowed me to see and embrace the totality of what was happening, but also the reality of like, this is not good for me. I was getting physically sick as well. And so from another perspective, working with energy, what happens, there's so much that can happen in those, like, I guess, narcissistic like relationships. And that soul, from a soul perspective, is playing out their wounds. And I too am playing out my own stuff and learning like, oh, I got to love myself here. And it's not that I don't have less love for the other person, but on a soul level, it's like, there's the opportunity for such huge growth. And then and transcending that lower vibrational experience of abuse and things like that. So ultimately, that's where my story, where I got to in that, to hold, but this is where that multidimensionality that I'm talking about, we hold those lower vibrations, that abuse, the verbal, the financial, like all these things, that this is no way to live and treat each other, or that lower consciousness. But how can I still recognize I'm also participating, because I have a role in this relationship as well, and what my choices were, trying to fix things and bend myself to, like try to make things better. That was not working. It just exacerbated everything. And then realized like, it's loving me, and this whole situation is also leaving it. So ultimately, when I got out, I did get physically assaulted from behind and suffered a concussion. And that totally jolted me, not just physically, but in a deeper way, like spiritually. Like I'm not the same. I'm just not the same since that incident.
And, and how long had it been since that day that you turned around while waiting for the half and half, and there that person was?
It's been about 2.5 years now, although it feels like time, the sense of time, it feels like 5 or 6. It's very interesting, this sense of time.
Yeah. And the time that had passed since before you had seen her again on that day that you were in the coffee shop?
Probably about 1.5 years later, I think, roughly, somewhere in there. But even the paying attention to the cycles in life at the time too was very interesting, because even before that moment in the coffee shop, I would see her sons ride their bikes to school, because at this time my schedule changed and I was walking the dog at a different time, and we're in the same neighborhood. And I used to just kind of ignore the fact that I knew them, but I could feel this inner tension. And then finally one day I just went, enough. I know them, I love them, and I said hi.
And that's the beautiful thing about this story, is you met that challenge of seeing her for the first time in that strange period of time that had passed, with love, and you embraced the situation as an opportunity for healing, not just for, I believe, for both of you. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. For both of us, and in ways I probably don't even know, because even the precursor to that, which I feel was preparing us both in some level, when I said hi to the boys, then we started crossing paths at a distance periodically up until that point. And this is how I feel that I got a deeper understanding of that deeper healing. When we heal ourselves and make a choice, it has a pulse on the web, that we're all interrelated. And I could just feel like this energetic breath go, because now when I see the boys on occasion, we are open to saying hi. And I let go of worrying about how she was going to feel about it.
Yeah.
And it was,
a unique experience. They say, I go back to the Tony Robbins expression, life is not happening to you, it's happening for you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's an opportunity for growth in each one of them. But you say here, the earthly sense of time has vanished from me. Oh, how interesting and magical this evolution has become. I try not to dissect or comprehend my journey too deeply. Human reasoning and logic do not seem rational, excuse me. The only thing I know is that I have surrendered to God. I am allowing my soul to take the wheel and navigate the remainder of my life. Whoever thought waiting for half and half would be so significant? Oh my goodness. I just love it.
Just hearing you read that back, I just feel like chills, like this energy all around me. And it's really, there's something powerful about having what's come out of me being read back to me, and also read on paper in published form, that's making that more real. And it's true, like I cannot put logic to this whole experience, but the reality of it is beyond powerful that I can even explain.
Yeah.
And this is where you have to engage life to experience this, and then the deeper understanding happens. And the similar experience can occur, and then you get another layer of that wisdom. And this is where I feel that whole spiral of evolution, as people depict it, that scenario can come around again, but I've changed, in the way I respond to it changes. And then I can feel, oh, that's what it is. But how do I share that?
Yeah, and each experience is different. Even if it comes around again, it's going to be different with different people, and you'll get something, I believe, higher and better from every time the situation comes around that you face.
Yeah.
And the time thing is
the time, like I said, it felt like 5 years had passed, and really it was less than that. It was a couple of years, if that. And that's that piece of surrendering and being present, and to the whole process that we're all connected to. And I feel that also when I find the more I'm in alignment with my heart and soul, and that surrendering to the soul and my I am presence, I'm on a different timeline, and it gets faster or slower, or, I don't know what day it is. So it's a very interesting process, and also was a deep healing too, of releasing various levels of trauma out through my body too, during that time, where I described how after I left, I had this adrenaline dump into my stomach.
Yeah.
and my body just vibrated. And for me, then I clicked and had a totally different relationship with the anxiety and trauma I was experiencing. And now I celebrate it and be like, oh yeah, do it. Okay, fine. You're going to bump us into each other again, and I'm going to have another release. So now I embrace it, but from a very different way of going, oh yeah, that's that energy, that imprint, that soul shock that gets to move out of my system. And it served me because it allowed me to, because shock has a purpose. It keeps us alive, but it also can kill us, in various physically, but also emotionally if I didn't release it in some way. So I've grown in that sense of how to work with that as an energy and the wisdom in that experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina. Thanks for sharing your story. I appreciate it. I have to go back to Jessica. So Jessica, is anything that Gina just said, the experience she has in the physical body, do you experience any of that when you're either on the side of law of attraction or law of unattraction and the negative or positive respectively?
I do. I connect with that because I feel energy as well.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where, if you catch yourself in a moment, in that, and again, I'm repeating things other people have said to me, but if it's light, it's right. And you can feel that in your body. And if it's heavy, you can feel, and you can do that with your own thoughts. You can catch yourself in your own spiral patterns if you're in a negative loop and it feels heavy versus, oh, breathe, it feels light, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely connect with that.
Do you agree that sometimes it takes us a while to learn how to get out of that spiral, to stop spinning, and how the physical alertness that you might get as you two ladies have been talking about is sometimes the trigger for you to recognize where you are?
Hugely. I mean, and I tend to be a delayed processor. So, by the time I'm feeling it in my body somewhere, it's taken me a minute to get there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And we're going to talk about more similar stories. These women are, I'm going to say you are wise women. You're wise women. And I am grateful to be spending this time with you. But right now we're going to go to a break and we'll be back in just a minute. Come back. Conversations that make a difference.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Canavas, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred Stories of Transformational Hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. With over 350 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. We're going to go to Martinez Emmons right now. I love the title of your story, your sandpaper wrapped gifts, right? My sandpaper wrapped gifts. And although your story is really challenging, and it's important to talk about now, I think, because really at any time, some of the things that you went through as a child, many, many children are going through today as well. And they have some have come way past the point of impact, if you will, and I'll let you talk about that. And they still don't know how to deal with, how to process through, and whether they should take responsibility for some of the things that happened to them. So I'm going to let you give a little bit of background on your story, if you will, Martinez.
Sure. I don't know exactly where you want me to start, but
wherever your heart tells you to start. I just know that I love this title, Sandpaper Wrap Gifts, and we all have them. We all have them. We all have points in our lives where something not so good, sometimes even traumatic. And Gina just described physical abuse. I was in an abusive relationship. I can tell you that. I'm grateful to be out of it for a long time now. But there was a process involved in getting through the trauma that I had experienced. Gina said the same thing. And I know that it was a process for you to get through the trauma that you experienced. So wherever you feel like starting or whatever you feel is relevant to this conversation, feel free.
Okay. And, just to start with sandpaper wrap gifts, it's all like my coach always says, my master coach, he always says that you can't be hateful of the teacher and grateful for the lessons, so you have to embrace the whole thing, nothing that happened to me or other young people or anything was right. But at the same time, as I'm getting older and everything, I realized my father did the best he could. Even, I was molested 3 times before age 9. And the first time I told them about it, and I remember just like my dad bracing himself in the doorway as I wrote in the book, and I could tell the impact, even at such a little girl, I could tell the impact that had on him. Yet he didn't know what to do with it. And they were staunch Catholics. They went to the priest, and the priest said, don't do anything, because the wife of my molester would be left with the knowledge that her husband was a monster. Well, he's mine. But I mean, I can kind of as life goes on, I can kind of see that for her to be left with that when she was a much elderly lady, but at the same time, there was always that, what about my little self? So I just grew up with, I must not be important, or there must be something really wrong with me. And I know that's the case with many people, even my own children. There have been certain circumstances where they're being like, well, why did this happen to me? What did I do? It's not anything they did or anything I did or anything other young people did. We just happen to be in that proximity of a toxic person, and I think that's something that people need to realize. It's not you. It's someone else's toxicity and you being in there. I know that there was a turning point, and I believe I have that in the story, that I had a boss when I was about 22, 23 years old, that he was a very metaphysical man. And I actually just found out today, he passed away just 2 months ago, at 72. And he was somebody that he just brought me in the whole metaphysical world. I never resonated with religion at any point. And, but I always was spiritual. I always had a belief in God. And he would introduce me to people, and he always took me, it was kind of fun, to these really fancy, expensive lunches and introduced me to colleagues and everything. And one of them, he just asked me one day, do you forgive your father? And I said, yes, of course I forgive my dad. And him pointing it out, do you realize what you did? And I'm like, what? Yeah, that I didn't realize that. And that sent me on a whole journey of diving deep into spiritual books, learning meditation, learning to tap into what was inside of me, and asking God for help, and therapy. I mean, I did so many different things, but it was really just embodying the feeling that I am good anyway.
Yes.
I am valuable anyway.
Yes, indeed.
And yeah, and I just want anybody out there who you've been through situations, it doesn't matter if you're a young person or something that happens later in your life, that you are valuable just because you are.
Right, exactly. I agree with you. I'm going to read a little bit from your story, if you would allow me. I used to ask God why this incident and the others happened to me. I listened intently, yet never felt I received an answer. Over the years, though, as I learned to love myself, a sense of peace and inner knowing blanketed me. As I evolved, so did my purpose and passion for utilizing my traumas for good. I think that's such a powerful statement, utilizing your traumas for good, because, you know, I believe that everything we go through, the reason may not be discernible. However, how you handle it is where the gift is, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. Despite being hurt, I deeply loved people, was drawn to those in despair, and wanted people to know they can conquer and overcome anything. And I do mean anything. My path from despair to enlightenment was long. Although it began with abuse and continued with difficult relationships, a failed marriage, and a miscarriage, I survived and evolved to share it with you. So how do you use this today? I know through your transformation show, you use it, and what is it like to be on the other side of it? And for lack of a better phrase, ministering to people who have gone through what you've been through.
You know, it's really interesting. I know there's certain people that have talked about trauma and how they've had to, what I am having to do right now. I'm at my dad's place, and it's like we are reversing roles. You know, somebody came to the door today a little while ago to ask some information. He's like, come on over here. You know, what do I do in this situation? And it's interesting because my dad was, sexual molestation was never done by him, but I was physically abused by him. And it's interesting how I would have thought at this age now, and being in the role that I am now, this sounds bad, but it wouldn't have bothered me so much to see him in a state of need. I want nothing more to protect him now. And I've never thought I would actually get to a state like this, where I want so much that I hope he's 86, that he passes away in his sleep. Please, God, don't hurt him. Please don't let something happen to him. And it's very interesting. And I know that it's possible to get here, and you got to do the work. You've got to feel every single emotion and let it pass through you and let it teach you. And that's what I hope to do or I pray to do. And I know I have done, is to help other people to get to this point. And I highly recommend therapy first. And then you come to me when it's like, okay, I've got to a state of forgiveness to a certain extent here. I'm here. And now it's like, okay, what can I do to use these gifts?
Yeah.
That's when I come in.
It's interesting you just said forgiveness, because that word was swirling around in my head as you were speaking. How difficult is it? I'm having a conversation with someone who does not believe that forgiveness is a verb. I believe forgiveness takes action. There is a certain amount of verbiage. That's not the word. There is a certain amount of it being a verb, that we need to take certain steps. We need to do certain things in order to be able to come to a place of forgiveness. Can you talk a little bit about your journey to forgiveness now that you can stand in this place where you are on the other side of it and lovingly taking care of your dad now?
Yeah, it's a common phrase. I don't know who first said it or, any of that thing, but it's like forgiveness is not for them.
Right. Exactly.
You forgive for you. And, and I can, at the state of life that I'm in now, where my youngest child is 17, I can look at my dad and realize, not only the trauma that he had himself, he really did the best he could of everything that came on. It doesn't excuse it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it didn't hurt my life. It did. But at the same time, I can look at the fact that he truly did the best he could. And it's interesting the way he looks at me now, the way he looks to me now. And that sometimes, not often, but he will say he loves me. He will say he's proud of me. You can reach this point. And that's not really so much your question. It's just the fact that if you can know you are forgiving so you can have peace. That you yourself deserve that forgiveness. Doesn't mean anything that they did was right. But you deserve to just
Yeah. And that, and we've all talked about various aspects of life happenings. And I think that in every one of the situations that we've talked about so far, I think that is an essential piece of healing, and moving through all of the things that we have to go through in order to be able to come on the other side of it with the wisdom that each of you have in order to be able to share and make somebody else's journey a little bit easier. And that's the beautiful thing about all these stories today. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Dr. Pat, you're in the hot seat next. I love your story. I'm from New York, by the way. I'm a Long Island girl. Yeah.
All right.
I'm a Long Island girl.
Where did you say you were from?
Long Island.
Is that
My
New York?
sister would say
Just
Long
joking.
Island.
I'm just joking.
Long Island.
Just joking. It's Long Island.
Long Island. Yeah. And you don't drink coffee. You drink coffee on Long Island.
You talk to Linda all the time. Every one of these ladies here right knows a conversation with Linda reminds you she is on the East Coast. And you gotta love it. Yeah.
Gotta love it. Yeah. And you are unstuckable and unstoppable. And that is, I
think that's the chapter. I'm not sure if I say that that's me in the chapter, but I aspire to be.
But I can tell you that I think you embody some of those qualities. Just from reading your story, I believe that you do. Let's talk about how you came up with that title. You have to believe that about yourself if you came up with that title. Yes.
Okay. If I'm going to be totally transparent, I totally backed into it. I was taught by Gail Torr, book agent, friend of mine for 20 years. Don't do the title to the end.
Yeah.
Just get down what you want to say and pick something that you want to say about. And I've never shared this story. So it was, I don't think Jessica even knew about it, but I never shared this particular aspect of my journey, a very young one. But the word unstuckable, I just hung on to it. As a matter of fact, it's not like an English word. And I bought the domain like 18 years ago from somebody because it's so represented what I aspire to be and what I love helping other people to think about. If you could be that, right?
Absolutely. And that's awesome. I love it. It's not a word yet. It is a powerful word that you have created in order to be able to use as a way to teach people how they can, I'm going to say, be free from whatever it is that they think has them stuck. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to read from your story.
Okay.
Rock bottom entailed sex, drugs, rock and roll, and disco. I was a disco queen too.
I knew you were going to read that part.
You did?
I thought I read through this and I said, I'm going to bet somebody like $1 she's going to pull that.
Because you know why? I got to tell you something. I would venture to say you're probably around the same age as me. And during that time, that's what we lived. That's what we lived, right?
Yeah. So
I became street smart. I love this part, the street smart part. Living in the projects and resourceful to our neighborhood dealers. I was a homeless teen, and I can't even imagine that. I was not, but I know so many people who during that era were, I was a homeless teen. I was the nasty bruise on the Big Apple where I was born. I lost my own way to drugs, my mother to suicide, my sister to a different kind of addiction, my stepsisters to mental illness and cocaine, and my stepmom to working so hard that her heart just couldn't handle it anymore. There are many ways to climb out of a pit, and I found my own. I made it through all of that with what I call street smart spirituality. And you are capable of the same. Okay, talk to me. What is this street smart spirituality? And how can anyone use what you teach in coming through situations? And I read that because of the impact. I wanted the impact when we talked, because it impacted me so deeply when I read this story, because I lived in the same type of situation with people around me, not myself necessarily, but with people around me doing the same thing and having to pick themselves literally up out of the gutter in order to be able to live their life. But you found a way out, and you teach people how to do it. So talk to me about what street smart spirituality is.
First, I want to acknowledge all of the women here in the stories they tell, because, and I want to acknowledge you, Teresa, for a minute, if I could, because we need to do more of this. We need to have more people like you stepping up and being a platform for voices for so many. We need to do it. I mean, clearly I'm preaching to the choir here about the network, and Jessica for sure, but we need to do this more, and we need to have more conversations like this. And you're doing a beautiful job. I was really touched by every piece of the stories you pulled out, and especially the one you pulled out for me.
Thank you.
I too come from a very odd abuse situation at age 6 in Catholic boarding school. Now, mine was twofold. And I don't have time to go into the whole story, but I will tell you this. I did get exposed from Catholic boarding school at age 6, not because of any of that, but because my stepmom, who was a really upbeat, positive Southern Baptist, she wasn't my stepmom yet. My dad was like cheating on my mom. This was my, soon to be stepmom. Like she was like 21. My dad was like 50. Shocking. And I had to go to Catholic boarding school at a very young age, but you don't want to put any 6-year-old in a Catholic boarding school, especially a Dominican. And I had an incident. Now, I was always in trouble. And I'll tell you, here's the punchline. If you read that article, you'll hear me use a phrase. And it's the thing people have said to me. There's something about you.
Something about you.
There's something about you. Some people roll their eyes, some people moan, but it's been said to me. So I found out later on in life, and after my history, that I'm what you call we don't have levels of autism now. They've gotten rid of them, but they have degrees on the spectrum. Now, I've done a lot of work so that I'm trying not to tap my foot right now, and I'll stop, but Jessica will attest. But I will tell you this. There's something about growing up with those wide eyes where you're so extrasensory that you just look like you're totally engaged in anything anybody is saying, like all the time. Like when you're getting yelled at by Sister Michael Anthony, but you're just like looking at them like, this is good, right? But the thing I want to share about this is everybody here can figure it out. I have studied many religions. Thanks to the Hare Krishna people on the streets of New York, I got white clothes and food for a day. But my journey to understand spirituality was to understand every one of us has every single power in us that maybe we've been told we cannot use by certain, I'm just going to say certain religious practices. I don't know which they are. Y'all figure it out yourself. But if you take a little street smart stuff and you live in New York or any other place, there's nobody with a half a brain that I know of that would walk down a dark alley after midnight to
Hold
take a
that
shortcut.
thought. Hold that thought.
Well, maybe one of the ladies here would, but I'd love to hear if they would.
Just hold that thought, because I'm going with you down that dark alley as a shortcut when we come back from our break right now. So come right back. We're talking to Dr. Pat Baccili about her story and the fourfold formula for all things wellness. Get your copy on Amazon today.
When you think about being healthy and happy, do you consider the 24 areas of your life? Probably not. With the All Things Wellness Wheel, you become self-empowered, allowing you to make healthier decisions about relationships, nutrition, sleep, exercise, stress, and even your value system. The All Things Wellness book series, written by Peggy Wilms and Dr. Marcus Bettstein, teaches about the ATW wheel and brings dozens of true and personal stories from real people. The first of these multi-author books, The Fourfold Formula, features the foreword written by the Celestine Prophecy author, James Redfield, and is now available on Amazon. Reserve your spot now to become a published author in Book 2, Win the Wellness War, We Are Responsible. Visit allthingswellness.com/author for more information.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of the Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. Thank you. At the break, we were talking to Dr. Pat about her story in the fourfold formula. And we talked about there's not many people that you know in New York that will go down the dark alley in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And look, I have to tell you that I wish that the idea came out of some phenomenal, I don't know, like download from an ancient alien or something, but it came out of desperation.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only shared a little bit about my story, and I really have to acknowledge Dan Vandermoss, who really was the main character of that article. Dan became my friend, but he was the first one to ever challenge me about my bad behavior and my attitude. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
But here's what I've learned about this. Before the Law of Attraction, and I love all these, I love what everybody wrote. Yeah. And I have to admit, after reading Gina's, again, I had post-traumatic stress disorder about my ex. So I had to really get some healing on that. But every one of us can be touched by every story. Martin A., Jessica's, yours, mine. But
Everybody.
what do we do about it? See, here's what street smart spirituality is about. You know, we all have the ability to manifest anything,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't
Yeah.
know how. And we think we know how. But when you are digging in dumpsters behind an alley for a hot dog, I liked hot dogs, so I didn't care about the pizza. I didn't like dumpster pizza. It was not good. But hot dogs out of the dumpster, they were salvageable because they're generally wrapped. So that was cool for me. And it's almost like a full meal if you get the onions. But what I learned about it is I never stopped not paying attention to the people around me. So what is street smart spirituality? It is a way not to avoid the dark, but to always look for the light, to always look for that glimmer, to always look for that hot dog store man owner that catches me in his dumpster and says to me, I will give you a fresh hot dog if you can tell me the secret ingredient in the hot dog. And I looked at him, little dirty, not sure how my face looked, long hippie hair, just saying. And I said, you got to give me something harder because, okay, it's very easy. He said, no, it's not easy. How about if I give you 6 hot dogs? I said, how about if you feed me for a week hot dogs? Because I don't have any food. And I went through and I said, here's what you have. You probably have about a quarter pork. Probably you say you have a quarter beef, but you don't really. I'm not sure that's really beef. I said, then you're throwing a little bit of this, but I know you're throwing veal in it. I'm not sure how or why. First of all, it's very expensive. And then you have all my grandmother's seasoning, everything that I could think of. It's a little bit too much oregano for me, so that's kind of bad. The garlic you have in it, you roasted. He said, but you're not telling me the secret ingredient. I said, it's very easy because your hot dogs are sweet. You put nutmeg in them. How can I do that? Why did I do that? So there's a version of this where I know that every word out of my mouth and every word out of my mouth now is not really coming from me.
Yeah.
It's not coming from me.
We have divine intervention.
It is
I'm going
not
to read
coming
what
from
you
me.
write at that, how you define smart spirituality, if you don't mind, okay?
Please.
It's street smart spirituality is a world of alleyways, each one giving us options. We can choose to see the darkness harboring fear, or we can shine a bright light to illuminate countless possibilities. It's a world that strings us along a treacherous path through dumpsters and rain and echoes, constantly bouncing off every graffitied wall, and through every rusted dreams prize. There is something about you. Find it. It's a peace in chaos and a light in the dark.
And this guy was one of the first, no, maybe the second person I remember looking at me and saying something like this, something about you.
Yeah.
Right. But I think he said there's something about you and I think you're crazy or something like that. There was like 5 other words that he added on to that. But look, I think we struggle, a lot of us through our lives, to find the right religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not anti-religion. So I want to be very clear to people that listen to this. I think we have freedom to choose whatever we want.
Yeah.
But I grew up with a Southern Baptist stepmom that was the same age as my sister. And you'd have thought that she came from the preaching school of positive Joel Osteen, putting him to shame because of the way she talked about stuff.
Yeah.
First child at 12, second child at 13. My mom. She taught me everything you hear from me today about perseverance. She never talked with me about my dad's version of my disability or how I was disabled or how I couldn't stop beating on a drum. You never got that from her. So the question really is for all of us, part of looking outside these dark alleyways is don't hang around people that live there.
Exactly. Just because it's there doesn't mean that you have to take up residence in that same place, right?
Just those people. I mean, if you want to stay in a dark alley, and look, I love horror films and stuff and comic books. I'm all goofy. I will not do the Chucky one, but I'll tell you, most of my early life was there.
Yeah.
And then I met angels.
Yeah.
See, that article is about one. Linda Firing, who is our producer, I met Linda in 1972, and I met her family. And I will never, I want to say this to people. When I met Joan Firing and I walked into their middle class house, I felt so like, what am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in and Linda was so excited for me to meet her. And I walked in like this. I'm telling you, I never lifted up my head. And I walked into this Joan, Irish, New York, Staten Island woman who looked at me and said, young lady, in my house, this is Joan. In my house, you got to pick up your head. I want to look in your eyes. I want you to know the color of my eyes.
Yeah. Powerful.
That is what we call street smart action, because you know what she was?
Yeah.
She was an angel with grit.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask, we only have 3 minutes left, but I have to ask this question to each one of you, and I'll start with you, Dr. Pat. The experience of putting your story in this book, can you just give me one word, how you feel, having now have it written, have it published, now you're talking about it on all these various radio shows. What's the one word that describes how you feel having written this story today?
A servant. You see, why would you do this?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're not doing this to help other people and be in service of it, so there are other people that use a fancy word for servant. I don't know what it is. My point is completely grateful.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Gina, what's the word that you give to this experience, having come through it? And now you're on the other side of it and sharing it with other people. What's your word?
Yeah, such a great question. And so many come to mind. Empowered.
Awesome. Awesome. Martinez, what's your word? Having shared that.
I could say so many, but I'll say encourager.
Awesome. Awesome. Jessica, what's your word?
I'll go with transformed.
Awesome. And my word for each one of you is grateful. And by the way, I hope each one of you, I have some of the stories. I have all of the stories, except do I have yours, Dr. Pat? I don't know. But anyway, you're going to get a chance to read something from each of these women again in a daily gift of gratitude, which is coming out at Thanksgiving time. All the stories are being edited. There's a flood of them that are going back out today or tomorrow for people to approve them. And I can't wait to release this book so that everybody can get another little piece of these ladies and their lives and their wisdom that they share on the topic of gratitude. I want to thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart for being part of Conversations That Make a Difference today. You've made a difference in my day and in the lives of others. I hope everyone listening to the show will make a difference in the conversations that they have with other people in their world. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our producer Rachel and to our station owner Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.